the princess went back to her escort maidens and she said, "You won't believe what I just saw." And they asked, "My princess, what do you see?" And the princess replied, "I saw myself," but she ran away. And they all looked at each other after hearing what the princess said. And one of the maidens said, "My princess, I think it might be an illusion." And the princess said, "I can't wait to tell father." And they all looked at each other and went back to the palace. And that evening, when Emola got home, she told her mother, who adopted her, about the mystery she encountered in the bush when she went to gather horse food. She said, "Mama, I saw someone that looked exactly like me, and she was dressed in fine clothing like someone who is wealthy." She said again, "I saw her with my 2 eyes wide open, and she even touched my hands. But when she touched me, it became real." And her mother asked, "Did she tell you who she is?" Emola replied, "No, Mama. I ran away because I thought I saw my ghost." And her mother laughed and she said, "A ghost indeed." And that night, her mother told Emola the story of how she found her in a basket behind a huge grass where horse food are kept. She said to her, "I went to the kingdom of Omode to buy some horse food, but when I got there, I could not find anyone. But what I saw was a crying baby. It was as if she had just been born. And so I felt weakened by her cry. So I carried her home and I took her as my own. And now she have grown into a fine young woman like you." Emola cried after hearing her own story, but however, her mother said she does not know anyone that is related to her, as no one came to look for a missing baby. While Emola was listening to her own story, Princess Adisi told her father about the girl she saw outside the kingdom. And she said to her father, "Papa, you won't believe what I saw. I saw my own reflection outside when I went for a small walk." Her father asked, "Your reflection?" And she replied, "Yes, I saw someone that looked exactly like me." Her father, after hearing what she said, he started laughing. He said to her, "Have you started taking unhealthy herbs? Because I think something is wrong with your mind." After they finished talking, the princess left. And at midnight, the king was having trouble sleeping because of what Princess Adisi told him, because he knew the princess never jokes with her words. When the queen woke up, she saw her husband restless and not asleep, and she asked him, "Adenkule, why are you up this late?" And he said, "Something bothers me, Laura." And the queen asked, "What bothers you at this time of the night?" And he replied, "Adebisi told me earlier this evening that she saw someone that looked like her, and she never jokes with her words. Is there any chance that we had a second child?" And Laura said, "A second child? What do you mean?" "That night, I woke up and I carried my one and only baby girl in my hands. She was in a basket close to me when I woke up, before the chief maiden, Amara, came back. Or don't you think she has started taking unhealthy herbs? And remember, the other day, people saw her riding a horse dressed like a commoner in the village streets, and she denied it in front of our eyes, and even called the elders a liar." And the king said, "Yes, you are right." And the queen said again, "Please go to bed and worry about Adebisi tomorrow." The next day, Princess Adebisi went in search of the mysterious girl that looked like her. She went all by herself. She covered her head so that no one would recognize her. And as she went to the bush that morning, she saw footprints of a horse. She followed the footprints. When she looked back, she discovered that her village is not that far from the village where the horse footprints ended. She then removed the clothing she used to cover her head. As she was walking around the village, some friends of Emola was calling her. They were shouting, "Emola, Emola," trying to get her attention, as they thought she was Emola because of their resemblance. And one of the girls ran towards her and said, "Emola, I have been calling you from afar. Did you not hear me?" But the princess said, "Who is?" But before she could finish her statement, the girl said, "Wow, your dress is beautiful. Who gave it to you?" And Princess Adebisi said, "My mother." And the girl asked Adebisi again, "Have you finished giving the horses food?" And she replied, "What horses?" And the girl said, "Your mother's horses." But however, the princess, not knowing how to respond to the questions, she said, "Not really. Can you please help me out today?" And the girl said, "Sure, as long as I get to look at this beautiful dress of yours." Princess Adebisi, she's best known for twisting words in her favor just as she refused the proposals of the men that came to seek her hand in marriage, and also somehow convinced her father that she is not ready yet. However, who wouldn't want to look for the replica if they bumped into them mysteriously? Princess Adisi knew she needed to see the mysterious girl again, and so she told the girl that approached her to help her out with the horse food. And as they were walking, Adisi followed the girl's direction as she leads her to where the horses are. As they got there, Emola was feeding the horses, and immediately the other girl saw Emola. She opened her mouth. She said, "What is going on here?" And Adisi said, "So you are real?" And Emola replied, "Yes, I am." And Emola asked, "Who are you and why are you here?" As both Emola and Adisi was talking, the other girl was about to run and tell others about the current mystery. But as she was about to run, Emola grabbed her immediately and she begged her not to tell anyone so that people will not gather around and cause trouble. Emola then looked at Adisi and took her inside her house, and they waited until Emola's adoptive mother came back. While the guards of Omode was searching for the princess whereabouts, that evening Emola's adoptive mother came back. Immediately she stepped her foot inside her house. She saw two identical twins at first glance, sitting together. She could not identify who is Emola. However, she was able to pinpoint a little fact because of how the other girl dressed like a princess. And so she asked, "What is going on here?" And Emola said, "Mama, this is the girl I told you about the other night, and she came looking for me." And her mother said, "That's right." And she asked, "Young lady, who are you?" And so Princess Adisi revealed who she was. She said, "I am Princess Adisi of the kingdom of Omode and the first daughter of King Adekule the Great." After Emola's adoptive mother heard the words that came out of the princess' mouth, she stepped back a little, staring at the princess for almost a minute, and said, "Your mother must be Queen Laura." And Adebisi said, "Yes, she is." And she said, "Oh my goodness, you are both twins." And so that night, Emola's adoptive mother told the princess of how she found Emola as a child in Omode kingdom behind a huge grass where horses' food are kept. And after Adebisi heard what she said, she grabbed Emola's hand and asked if it's true. And Emola replied, "Yes, this is the same story she told me." Adebisi quickly hugged her twin sister as she shed tears. She said, "I knew something was strange when I met you in the bush. When I touched you that day, I felt a strong connection. That's why I came looking for you." And Adebisi asked Emola's adoptive mother. She said, "What do we do from here?" And she answered, "We should reveal the truth to the king." And the princess said, "It has been long I left the palace. My father would have been looking for me by now, and I cannot wait to see the looks on my father's face when he find out that we are two." And Emola said, "This is too fast. Wait, am I a princess and I have a father who is a king and a queen mother?" And she cried, But how? How did I end up alone on the street? Did my own mother abandon me?" As she was crying, her adoptive mother consoled her, and she said, "My child, we don't know what may have happened, but let's get to the palace first." And so that night, Princess Adebisi spent the night at Emola's house. And the next morning, as they was leaving the village, people were staring at them. Looking at Emola and Adebisi, they said, "This girl is a twins," and others said, "Wow, there are two of them, but where did the other come from?" As they entered the kingdom of Omode, all the maidens opened their mouths after seeing both of them, and they quickly alerted the king and queen. And the people of Omode and the elders was all confused as they could not believe the situation happening before their eyes. King Adekule was sitting at his throne thinking about his daughter when one of the maidens walked in and said, "Your Highness, the princess has returned." And the king said, "But what?" And she answered, "There is a problem, Your Highness. You should see for yourself." And so the king went out to see for himself. But however, immediately the chief maiden heard that the child she took away at birth from her mother has returned back to the village. She was afraid and was preparing her belongings to run away from the kingdom. As the king saw the princess and Emola together, he put his hand on his head and shouted. His voice could be heard from 3 rooms afar, and Queen Laura got up immediately after hearing the screams of the king, and she ran to the palace, but she could not find him. She went outside, and as she saw both of the girls looking identical, she fell to the ground immediately and shouted the chief maiden's name. Amara, Amara, Amara. She shouted her name 3 times, but she did not answer, not knowing that the chief maiden was looking for a way to run away from the kingdom. And so the king instructed the guards to search the palace and bring the chief maiden, Amara, at once. As the guards got to her room, they saw her about to jump from the window, and they quickly grabbed her and brought her before the king and the queen. And the queen said, "Look, please tell us what is happening here. You delivered my baby, but how come there are 2 of them? I remember that night when I woke up, I didn't see you in the room. When I looked at the floor, I saw my baby on the ground in a basket before you came in later, about 20 minutes, and you said you went to bring water. But that night, you did not return back with the water. Where did you go?" And the queen ordered her to speak, or her punishment will be great. And as the chief maiden was afraid of how great her punishment will be, she confessed and said, "I took her away immediately she was born. She was first to come out, and I took her because of my jealousy of you, my queen." And the queen asked, "You took her to where?" And she replied, "I took her out of the palace." And the queen said, "You took my child out of the palace to suffer at young age, after I trusted you and made you first of all the maiden?" And so the queen ordered the arrest of the chief maiden. And the queen looked at Emola and said, "My baby girl, I am so sorry this happened to you. I would have never known if you didn't come today." And Emola said, "It was Adisi who brought her here." And the king said to her, "You must have been through a lot." And Emola said, "I was brought up and taken care of by my adoptive mother." And the queen quickly thanked Emola's adoptive mother for her goodness towards Emola. And Emola's adoptive mother told the king and queen how she found Emola alone, crying close to a huge grass where horses are kept, and she adopted her as her own. And she told them the name of the child, Emola. And the king said, "Emola is a beautiful name." And so that day, the king announced to the villagers of Omode kingdom that his lost daughter has returned, his rightful first daughter, Princess Emola. And people was happy and celebrated, even though they did not know what has happened. And the elders came and said to Emola, "So it was you who was riding us in the village that day, and we thought it was Adisi." And Adisi said, "I told you it wasn't me." And the elders said, "But we did not know back then. But now we know she has returned to take her rightful place as the future queen of Omode and get married." Emola shouted, "Get married to who?" And the king laughed. "Oh my dear, do not worry. As time goes on, you will get to choose." And so they crowned her as first princess, Princess Emola of Omode village. And so the king gave Emola's adoptive mother a great reward of gold and silver, and also a plot of land and a house in the kingdom of Omode, and made her second lady in the kingdom after the queen and the princesses. And so the 2 twins reunited again after being separated at birth, and they both ride in a chariot of royalty through the village, showing their faces to all the people as twins.